Welcome to the third and final day of the Jornada Nacional 2025, organized by PRONI and the British Council. It is a pleasure to greet once again the specialized educational advisors and English teachers from Colombia, Chile, Mexico, and Peru, who join us in this space for learning and professional development. On this final day, we will explore and expose strategies to strengthen our classroom practices, as well as PRONI materials for students from third grade of preschool to sixth grade of elementary or primary school, and the English textbooks used at secondary level. Some quick reminders about our house rules are: please note that the session time announced in the programming are based on Mexico Central Time. We invite you to participate in the chat with openness and cordiality, recognizing the respectful exchanges, collective learning. It is essential to register your attendance via the surveys that will be shared at the end of the day. Today's survey is particularly important to receive your certificate. It is not necessary to share your personal details in the chat. We ask you to carefully verify the information that you enter in the forms, as your certificates will be issued according to the name that you have registered. Please also make sure your email address is correctly spelled. Otherwise, you might not get your certificate. Please remember that all sessions held during these days will be recorded, and you will be able to watch them again and until October 31st using the links provided in your programming. Regarding access to the broadcasts, the process is very simple. You must enter the YouTube link provided in the official programming for each session. At the end of the sessions, there will be a short break before continuing with the next presentation. You can access the next presentation by clicking on the Join Here button found in the programming of the activities. In the chat, we have been sharing some websites where you can find hundreds of free high quality resources to help teachers in the classroom, as well as articles, videos, publications, and of course, to help teachers and teacher educators with their continuing professional development. Be part of the world's largest online English teaching community and find a wide range of practical resources to use in your primary lessons. Visit the websites shared through the chat. Collaborate and share your knowledge. For free training and connections with teachers in the Americas, don't forget to visit BBuilt webpage. For this first presentation of the day, it is my pleasure to introduce Matthew Long, who will be sharing with us the topic, development of oral expression. Matthew is currently the English coordinator at Colegio Mereci, a problem-based learning specialist school. He designs curricula that branch beyond English, connecting interdisciplinary and with a mind-brain education focus. He is delighted to be working once again along the British Council Mexico, and we are delighted to have him as well. Please remember to engage in the chat. You can let us know where you are connecting from. And we are ready for Matthew Long. Welcome, please.
Hello and good afternoon, everybody. Thank you so much for that wonderful introduction. So as you just heard, my name is Matthew Long. I'm based here in Mexico City, and I'm the head of English at my school, where we work. We are, of course, a SEP school. We work with certain different materials, and we like to implement our own specific English curricular materials to try and get the best out of our students as possible. And I'm going to share some of those tips with you today in this presentation. So without further ado, let's make a start. Development of oral expression. So, if you have been to one of my webinars before, maybe you know that I like to start with a little bit of neuroscience on how the brain learns and how, as our students, receive the information that we're giving to them. So I'm just going to uh, start off by thinking, in your classrooms currently, I'm certain you are doing so many wonderful activities. If you could pop into the chat and I can collaborate with you, what current approaches do you use to develop speaking skills in young learners? Add your ideas to the chat, please. I think it's a wonderful learning opportunity to learn from our peers wherever they are in the country as teachers, just so we can kind of share best practices together. So if you can start by thinking and reflecting, what are some of the approaches you currently use um, in your classroom? Songs, says Lisbeth. Thank you so much. Repetition, peer talking, simple dialogues, project presentation. Wow, a lot of interaction. Thank you so much. Debates, repeat after me, role play, TPR, expositions, puppets, drills. Thank you so much. So this is wonderful. Obviously, we are doing lots of really enriching activities in our classrooms for speaking. And I'm going to show you something today which I used to believe wasn't that possible in the ESL classroom, but thankfully it is. And I'm going to show you some demonstrations on how we do that. So thank you so much. Please continue to interact with the chat. And as I can see, many people are really giving some good ideas for everybody together. So as I said, I am a big fan of mind-brain education sciences, and I'm going to start with a little true or false. So true or false, engaging with poetry activities, various areas of the brain associated with language, memory, and emotion, which are crucial for learning, develop in young learners. Is this a true statement or is this a false statement? Thank you so much, Janet and Minus, who said true. Rebecca, true. David, true. Juan Ricardo, true. Thank you so much. Yes. So I won't spend any longer on this. You're absolutely correct. The answer is true. So that's a little hint into what the session today is going to look like. So research shows us using functional magnetic resonance imaging, MRI scans, has shown that when individuals engage with poetry, there is increased activation in the left hemisphere of the brain, particularly in regions such as the Broca's area and Weinig's area, which are associated with language processing and production. So there's been a lot of research where we know through time our civilization has developed through storytelling. As a huge fan of storytelling, I've spoken about it in the past. But poetry as well has a real rich history in civilization for using language, for developing language and passing on stories to other people. And that is why we have this connection with language and poetry in our brains. So today I'm going to be talking, of course, about poetry and how we can use that to benefit the oral expression in our young learners. As a little bit of a heads up, today there are multiple points of participation. I will be asking you to create your own poems, so please get your notebook ready, your pen ready, and most importantly, your creativity ready as well. I'm really excited to see what you can come up with and what we can share further with our students. So, what does the research tell us? So we've obviously looked at the benefits for language acquisition, but we know that there is a language and brain activation, that the poetry engages parts of the brain. There's this really strong connection with memory. And obviously, in our circumstances, teaching English as a foreign language, memory is something that we really need to take advantage of to help students become familiar with the sounds, to improve their own speech, and poetry through research has a real strong connection with this. As someone has written in the chat, there is also emotional connection too. So I'm sure at some point in your life you've listened to a poem, you've listened to a story, a prose, or even a song, and it sparks these emotional engagements. And that helps children remember language better and helps them to also speak more confidently in public. Rhythm and repetition, as we saw, someone mentioned repetition in their speaking activities. We know that vocabulary and pronunciation reinforces the speech pattern. And with repetition, we are strengthening the neurons in our students' brains. And stronger the neuron, the less easy it is to break and forget. So we really want to be reinforcing that rhythm and repetition. And luckily with poetry, we have that. Creativity and flexible thinking. Poetry is such a rich base for our students to be, demonstrating their creativity, to be learning lovely, rich, creative adjectives and words to be demonstrating through their own artistic expression. Social skills. We know that group and class poetry activities build connection and trust within the safe space that is our classroom. And of course, it is learning with all senses. There are obviously different types of learners in our classroom, and we need to be taking all of those into consideration and have this UDL approach, Universal Design for Learning, so all students can access. And this includes movement, visuals, sound, speech, writing, so many different rich areas that we can be looking at. Okay, so however, does it work? The short answer is yes. So unfortunately, my computer is having some technical issues and I'm unable to share this audio with you. But as you can see in this these photos, at my school, we host multiple speech competitions throughout different ages from primary up to secondary and prepa as well. So at my school, we have something that's called Medici Poetry and Medici Talks. Of course, Medici Talks is similar to your TED Talks, your TEDx events, where they are looking at themes, researching them, and creating their own opinions, backed up by evidence, developing critical thinking. But with our lower primary students here at Colegio Medici, we look at poetry as a wonderful, beautiful, artistic expression of oral skills. In the past, we used to ask our students to research a poem, memorize it, and also then demonstrate it. Okay. So, but we have suddenly advanced. We have demonstrated that children are able to write their own poems, memorize their own poems, and then perform them. I wish I could share this with you. However, there is no, audio working today. However, these two students in the past were in second grade and they created beautiful, rich individual poems that were unique to them. As you can see, that me in the photo, this is a grade-wide competition. We start from giving them ideas and themes, which I will show you next. And then slowly they build, repeat, perform. And as you can see, the young boy on the left, he provided actions and kind of demonstrations with his performance. So, right. So what are the benefits in our ESL context? Of course, the benefits that I just demonstrated for you were general language acquisition. But we are in an ESL context, okay? And of course, we know that poetry supports rhythm, intonation, and pronunciation practice, encourages expressive reading and memorization skills. It builds vocabulary through repetition and rhyme and creates emotional connections, making language memorable. That's the difference in ESL. We want our students to be remembering the language and supports cultural exchange through diverse poetic forms. I know this is such a wonderful time of year. Um, I think it's called Calaveritas. I think it's in Mexico, where people write poems about the people who have passed away, about the dead. So once again, it's that beautiful cultural exchange where we can really maximize the cultural difference between English language and also Mexican culture. Okay, so how do we get there? I hear you screaming at me. I'm sure you're thinking, yeah, that's nice, it's some nice photos, but what does this mean for my classroom? So I have had the privilege of working with this poet in the past, Ken Nesbitt. Um, he is a poet from the United States. Please go onto his website, poetryforkids.com. And he has so many wonderful poems. He uploads weekly new poems specifically for children. They are age appropriate, language appropriate, theme appropriate, and are always based for children. He likes to have this approach of funny poems, and they are just absolutely wonderful. So after this talk, whenever you have free time, go and check out Ken's website. And he also has resources for teachers, so you can be developing um, the skills in our own students later. Okay. So this was some kind of inspiration from a lot of Ken's work that I use with my students. So first of all, we need to be thinking about what are suitable poems for our students. Okay. So, of course, depending on the cognitive level of our children in our classes, we can be thinking of different types of poems. So, in my school, we on first and second grade, we focus on poems about their favorite things. Okay, so first and second grade poems are about their favorite things. It's very relevant for them. It's very kind of structured and quite easy to manage, and within their current world about toys and cars and things like this. As we get to third grade, we get to fractured nursery rhymes, where we are using a nursery rhyme and adapting it and changing it ever so slightly so they can replicate and create something new. We are looking at clearer hues about famous people. I've got some examples in a little bit for fourth grade. And fifth and sixth grade, we start to go to funny list poems and really take advantage of their ability to be more creative with their language and deeper thinking processes. Okay, so here are some examples. So, my favorite things. Here is an example of how we can do this, of the My Favorite Things poem. So, My Favorite Things, here is the poem. My teacher asked me, what makes you happy? Cakes, football, chocolate, being tall, books, my toys, colours, lots of noise. Pizza and sugary toast, these are the things I like the most. A very simple poem. So, by giving them this structure, we can be really giving our students some basic vocabulary and the confidence of creating their own poem. So, what the teacher does, as you can see with my weird red squiggles, is you can see that the teacher provides the first and last sentences for structure. So, you will be giving your students a worksheet that has my teacher asked me what makes you happy, blank, blank, pizza and sugary toast. These are the things I like the most. Okay. So you're providing them the structure, and all they need to do is just start with rhymes in the middle. they focus on the two stanzas in the middle: cakes, football, chocolate, being tall, books, my toys, colours, noise. So we are expecting our students to have the knowledge of 8 different pieces of vocabulary that they like. Of course, we need to, not everything is completely random. We need to be making sure that football and tall, they are rhyming words. Toys and noise are also rhyming words. So we need to give our students a little bit of understanding of what rhyming is and tools to share that. Okay. Um, and then they just need to fill out the other blanks. And then they've created their own original poem. For this example, I will give you some examples of how I've used this in class here in Mexico in February, I believe it was, with our first, second graders here in Mexico. My school is a bilingual school. We teach Spanish and English just like every other school here. So we need to model the process for students, but also challenge to add to their own lists. So that is for first grade and second grade, which is my favorite things. Next, if you can remember, we need to next be going on to third grade. Third graders are a little bit more advanced, okay? So then we can be really pushing them to be adding onto something else. So on the left-hand side, you can see the old classical poem, The Old Woman Who Lived in a Shoe, okay? So there was an old woman who lived in a shoe. She had so many children, she didn't know what to do. She gave them some broth without any bread. She whipped them all soundly and sent them to bed. Not a most nice poem, if I'm honest. However, we can use that structure and present it to our students in different ways. So now that we've got a base for a classic poem, we can then start to think about how we could adjust it. So I would ask my students, okay, well, the old woman she doesn't no longer live in a shoe. She doesn't do all those wicked things to the children. What can she do? So then they need to start to identify and slightly change the sentences. So there was an old woman who lived in a box. Okay, brilliant start. So she now lives in a box. She doesn't live in a shoe anymore. Okay, box. And then I would be getting them to think about the rhyming words with box, and then they can add it on. Okay. Okay, box. Next we have locks. Okay, what can we do with locks to describe the house? It didn't have windows or doorknobs or locks, or it had big white walls with doors full of locks, whatever. Okay. So we could be asking them, once that we've made that first sentence, there was an old woman who lived in a box. We could be encouraging them to be pushing on to rhyme. Okay, what can we do with locks? And then we're building backwards. We start with the rhyme of locks, and then we build ourselves backwards. She wanted to travel the world, and so she mailed her house wherever she wanted to go. Okay. Once again, we're giving them the structure, asking the students to identify the rhyming words, and then we build backwards. Of course, this would need a little bit of support. This can be done in groups. This can be done in teams. We compare our stronger students to our students who need a bit more support. And we're building from the rhyme backwards because we've already given our students a nice context for their poem. Okay, so that is for first, second, and third grade. This one is only for third grade. It's too advanced for first and second. So here is a clerihew. So what are clerihews? Clerihews are 4 lines. Sorry, it's a bit mismerged. 4-line long poems with a pattern AABB. That means that we have potter, plotter, or AA, they rhyme together, and the last two, BB, ashamed, named. Okay? So the objective of a clerihew is to be funny. It's to kind of have a light-hearted humor to, introduce our children, just to, use a bit of humor, because humor is the best way to use poems often, but not mean, as it says on the screen. So the first line is the name. Okay, I've written an example for you. It's a 4-line long poem. Our presenter today, Matthew, he really doesn't have a clue. He sounds from a strange land, which I really don't understand. Okay, of course, that's been making fun of me not having any clue of what I'm talking about, me being from a strange land, which is the UK. And once again, we're just focusing on the beginning is the name, and then we can find a pattern, a rhyming pattern. Matthew, clue. Okay, brilliant. Okay. And then once again, you build backwards. If you don't feel confident that your students can be um, writing these types of poems for people in the class, you can always start with famous characters, famous people. Characters in books are my favorites. Okay. For example, the enemy of Harry Potter was a scheming plotter. I can't tell you what he's called. I'd be ashamed to name he who must not be named. Okay, so once again, this is for fourth grade. We can start to look at um, different types of characters, and a clerihew really gives us the opportunity to be focusing on people and to expand a little bit. We're giving them a context of a character or a person, and it should be humorous. It doesn't have to be, but it should be. Okay, excellent. So now we've got first grade, second grade, third grade, fourth grade. So we now come to fifth grade, okay, and sixth grade. In our fifth and sixth grades, we present our students with funny list poems. Once again, structured poems for our students to be adding onto it. Okay. So funny list poems, once again, starts with the first and last couplet. Okay. So, for example, my mother said, go buy some bread, but this is what I got instead. So we're giving them this structure at the beginning, and then we're giving them the last part of when my mother needs things from the store, she never sends me anymore. So then the list in the middle can be added by the students. We need to be accessing and adding that all of the list of usually, once again, humorous things that we can be giving to the students. So we're giving them the beginning set, we're giving them the last set, and from the last couplet, it says, when mother needs things from the store, she never sends me anymore. So that indicates a problem. That means it needs to be something happened that went wrong, that you bought all of the wrong things and it's not bread. Okay? So what can this look like? I'll get my example up in a moment. I thought I shared this, but apparently not. Um, and they can list all of these funny things that the students got from the store, but they didn't get the bread. Okay. So how does this look like in a Mexican classroom? I hear you ask. So, as I said, I worked with lower primary in this format. And what we did is, I'm the head of English, so I entered with our fabulous teacher, Areli, and I wanted to help her introduce this new theme. So as you can see, we started with rhyming words with Areli, the telly, Matthew, the cat, and the rat. Sorry, Matt, cat, and rat. Okay, just to kind of get them interested. Matthew, Matt. So in teams, we had to provide them with the what is a rhyming word and some resources. So what we were lucky to have, as you can see on the screen, we had an Oxford Children's Rhyming Dictionary. Okay, so at the beginning, I demonstrated how they needed to use the dictionary, and especially the rhyming dictionary. But students also have access to so many rich resources for homework. They can use their cell phones to use children's rhyming dictionaries. On the website I provided you earlier, there is a search bar where children can search for words and it gives them age appropriate. We don't want anything inappropriate. It gives them age appropriate vocabulary and the rhymes for that vocabulary. So they get into teams, fill out this mat, cat, hat, sat, fat, pat, and then going through it, and we're just checking they understand the concepts of rhyme. Then I shared one of my favorite songs of all time, and they all go traveling by, just to kind of get them into the rhythm of rhyming. And I stopped the song and I asked them to pause. Okay, in this song, what rhyming words can you hear? Just once again, activation. They're listening for vocabulary. We are identifying rhyming words just to kind of bring up this skill of rhyming. And then once we've kind of gone through the rhyming in the dictionary, we've gone through the song to identify the sounds of rhymes and appropriate rhymes in songs. Then I start to ask them, okay, now, this is of course over multiple days, right? I ask them, write a list of your 10 favorite things in primary. So I give them examples of cars, trees, ball, iPad. I mean, let's be honest, they're children. That's what they like nowadays. Paint, toys, toy, books. Okay. So they've already been given an example through the song. So they start to think about things that are relevant for them. They don't need to worry about rhymes in this moment. They only need to write their favorite things, their 10 favorite things. Okay. And then I start to ask them, okay, now that we've got our 10 favorite things, I would like you to circle in red the 4 that you want to rhyme. Okay. So I demonstrated it for them. They circled ball, they circled trees, they circled cars, they circled snake. And then we're asking them to write in a different color. Write in red a rhyming word with your chosen word that you circled. Ball, tall, tree, me, cars, Mars, a snake, a lake. Okay? Hopefully, they don't rhyme things like orange, which you can't rhyme with. But if they do, it's okay. It's all part of the learning process. We can identify to them. It's okay. Not all words have rhyming words. Don't worry. Just make a list of some others in your list of 10, as we saw before. You can go back to that and check something different. Okay. So once again, yeah, I had some bizarre, like Marvel characters that I just couldn't rhyme for them. But it's okay. Once again, we redirect them to their ability and we ask them to, start to rhyme the words that they can do. And this is where the teacher really comes into play. So this is all step by step. They're starting to do it by themselves, right? And then what I did is I cut out little pieces of paper and I wanted them to write their rhyming words in red and the other words in black. Once again, I'm creating this color difference that I'm able to match. It's just a simple matching activity. So they've written all of their words in black and red, all these little pieces of paper, and then it becomes a puzzle. They organize the words that they need to do below. Black, 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 red. Black, 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 red. So then they come paint, iPad, toy, a tree, ball, books, paint, me. Once again, starting to build them with their stanzas So then they can start to build their own poems, and we're slotting that into the middle of their poems because we've provided the beginning and end. And from there, they're slowly starting to build their own poems. Okay, so I would like to give you a go. I'm going to write in the chat the code because I find it so useful to share materials with teachers. And so I'm going to, oh, actually, can someone from, I've put the link into the private chat. If someone could help me by putting that into the comment section, that would be so, so helpful. So yeah, I have provided with you with a link with some worksheets to kind of get you started. Okay, so I would like you to choose and write. Thank you so much. British Council Mexico has posted a link into the chat. Please use that and open it to find these PDFs. I have provided you the link. Open it and have a look at some of the worksheets. Once again, these are real worksheets we use at my school. They're a gift to you all for these different types of poems. I would like you to take a few moments, and as teachers, we need to be inspired ourselves. So open them, look at the instructions, start to look at the example of the poem, and begin to write your own poem. I'll give you 2 minutes. I would love to give you more, but there are a few more slides I need to get through. And then please share them and I'll read them out accordingly. Okay, you have 2 minutes. So whilst you're writing, I'll just explain what are in those links. You've got the fractured nursery rhymes where it goes through different stages of choosing a nursery rhyme or a well-known song. Then it's saying about rhyming. Once you pick your rhyme, next steps to find the words, and it's given examples. Okay. And then you write your first draft and your final draft. In the second, you've got your list of favorite things, where it says my favorite things, rhyming, a list of words, rearrange your words, choosing endings, and your favorite poem. Okay. So yeah, you can begin to write your own poems. Okay. I'll just quickly, as you're finishing up, as not everyone can provide a poem. Oh, I like that comment. As not everyone could have a rhyming dictionary, we could provide with rhyming words to students for them to choose. Absolutely, Veronica. Yes, if you do not have rhyming dictionaries at your disposal in your class, you can, yeah, be providing them with different types of lists pre-made. At the park, saw a big dog sleeping like a log. I saw a small fish swim right through a dish. I saw a fast cat wearing a big hat. I saw a slow bird and it never said a word. Wonderful. Amadis, thank you so much. That is a wonderful example. Thank you. If we could have one or two more, and then we can move on to how we assess, and then we can start to wrap up. Tongue twisters, says Elena. Beautiful. I love that. So I will just once again just flick through. So this is the activity. Please write it. I'm going to show you, go back. Books and students every day at school study hard to enjoy the pool. Love it, Angelica. That's beautiful. For the, oh, sorry, I'm kind of skipping through here to get you the example of favorite things. Excellent. So once again, there's the structure for your favorite things. My teacher asked me what makes you happy, and then you've got the list. Okay. Excellent. Selling. I like dogs. My mum doesn't have a clue. He is in my bed eating all my food. Good. Clue, food. That's a half rhyme. That's good. But these are things that should be celebrated. Fantastic. Wonderful. Thank you so much. Excellent. So we only have around 8 more minutes. But this is wonderful. Thank you so much. Please, 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 please continue to write your poems. Once again, don't be afraid of a Clerihew. They're a little bit more tricky, but it's okay. A list of favorite things. So yeah, so once again, please do go through the resources available to you. And of course, with older ages, you can begin to kind of stretch it up where you can give more demo and, like the Clerihew, use the base, adapt it, and then once again, because they're a bit higher cognitively. Okay, so but how do we assess this? So all of our students have written these beautiful poems like you just have now. And it is so inspiring for the student, but also for the parents. I had such an amazing experience showing parents of students who are lower ability, creating unique individual poems in a second language. What an amazing achievement that is. But also we need to assess, okay? So how do we give practical classroom strategies for using poetry? So I've walked you through what I did for first and second grade. I decided to share first and second grade because they're the most challenging, because they're the youngest and usually have a lower language ability. But in general, what are some practical classroom strategies you can use? So of course we can use choral reading, where everyone's reading together to make them feel comfortable, especially with your demo texts, to make them feel comfortable, to get them in the rhythm and rhyme and kind of using the intonation correctly. That goes with poems. Encourage acting out poems to enhance meaning and engagement. It becomes a performance. Pair students for peer reading and performance. This doesn't have to be individual. We can put them together so the shyest students can also participate. What we did in my school is there was a child who did not really feel confident to stand up and speak, and that's okay. We got her to record a voice note and a video, and then that was her presentation, and it was wonderful. She still had her opportunity to participate. We can integrate drawing and movement using technology, like I just mentioned, to share performances. But it's very, very important to celebrate mistakes as valuable learning moments. We know that as teachers, making a mistake is an opportunity, not a problem. So it's always important to celebrate that and just give some feedback. Oh, how about using this word instead? But yeah, always using positive reinforcement and constructive feedback, promoting student choice. Once again, we need to give them the choice of their list, the choice of their toys. They decide, we don't tell them. If they begin to say it in Spanish, that's okay. We can write it down and help them with the translation, okay? It's really important that the students are deciding what their poems are about and creating regular opportunities for sharing in small groups and whole class settings. Okay, so how do we assess? So originally, my school, we used to only assess the performance, which is not always the best thing. We've adapted it since, of course. But originally, as you can see in the structure of the format of the grading table, we looked at knowing the poem, speaking clearly, posture and eye contact. It's very performative. Volume, voice and pace, content, performance to kind of just show their performance. However, we are incredible teachers. We've got the NEM formative approach. We know that we should be assessing them throughout the whole process, not just the final product, to be building informative assessments. Okay, so that's why we've now moved on to students using self-assessment tools, like how were the rhymes correct? Was peer reflection included? Process-focused feedback rather than just the final performance. We're looking at them designing their own poem. Have they checked the correct material? And once again, error analysis workshops where mistakes become learning opportunities. We can use the board for that, just identifying, just passively giving feedback so we're not making them feel self-conscious, and continuous adjustment strategies based on student needs and responses. So we need to be giving them a practice session. They need to be evaluated throughout the whole time in their formative manner. So then we can be giving them feedback throughout the whole process, not just the final product, because we know that is such stronger basis for learning instead of just at the end. So we can start each week with student self-reflection activities. How are they doing? Which tell us three things you liked, one thing you found difficult. End each practice session with peer appreciation circles. We need to be given positive encouragement. We need to be celebrating. Document their growth through audios and reflective journals for older students. We can also, we can document their growth. We can keep a portfolio of their written work. So then we can be grading the whole process, not just the performance. Connecting speaking practice to real community needs. For example, in our school, we have a kind of celebration where the parents come in called Medici Talks. But we also need to pause and adjust when you notice student disengagement and celebrate mistakes as evidence of learning and courage. Okay, so I have 2 final minutes, so I'm going to make the most of all of this time. If you feel that poetry really isn't for your students, for example, that disengagement comment that we looked at a minute ago, we need to be making sure that it's a safe and welcome environment for just general oral activities, storytelling and creation. Please, please, please have a look at Talk for Writing techniques. It's a wonderful technique to get our students speaking original stories. As you said, role play and dress up, show and tell. Assemblies are lovely, grade assemblies where students are in control of presenting the work that they did the previous week, or Global Goals Week, for example. Clips and videos, presentation tools, and morning circles. Welcoming the students each day through morning circles, asking how are they in a nice, safe environment. Okay, so I'm going to end this webinar, this presentation, because you've got your next speaker coming on. In every poem, there's a world to explore with words that dance and dreams that soar. So open a book, let your imagination take flight, and discover the magic that shines in each line bright. That is the beauty of the written word. That is the beauty of poetry. And that is what we should be giving to our students. Please make sure you use those materials. Feel free to use them. They're designed here at my school. We don't have any copyrights, don't worry. I really hope everything was applicable for you today, useful today. So next week, we can be starting these processes with our children in school. Thank you for your attention. Thank you for your participation in your wonderful poems. And I'll see you all again soon.
Thank you very much, Matthew Long, for this engaging and wonderful presentation. Your insights on developing oral skills through poetry highlight how creative approaches can enrich students' learning and inspire participation in the classroom. And we have many, many comments and congrats from the audience. So thank you very much for being here with us.
Thank you so much. Have a wonderful rest of the conference. Take care.
We also want to express our gratitude to all the participants for your questions, your comments, and your active involvement in the chat. Your contributions help make this space a dynamic and meaningful environment for reflection, dialogue, and sharing learning. Now, we have a short break before continuing with our next presentation. Remember that you can join the next session at 4 p.m. by clicking on the Entre Aquí or Join Here button available in the event programming. See you in a few minutes.